3:41 in the morning. That is the timestamp on the first clip my lawyer sent me. I looked at the numbers before I looked at the woman. That is what 4 years does to you. Camera 9. Utility corridor. Yvette Crane at the security panel with the cover open. She is 47, and she has cleaned my house for 11 months. In the clip, she is not hurrying, and she is not looking over her shoulder, which is the part Peter kept pointing at. Guilty people rush, he said. Look at her. She has done this before. He was right about that. She had. Second clip, next night, 3:39. Same panel, same 40 seconds. Peter Naum has been my family's lawyer since I was 19, and he has never once been wrong about a person. He said the word out loud in my office, with the second clip still frozen on the wall. Espionage. Here is the thing I need to say at the start, because the rest only makes sense if you know it. I agreed with him. I had said maybe 400 words to that woman in 11 months, and every one of them was about the house. And I thought, of course, it is always the one nobody looks at. My name is Ryu Sang-hoon, and I was 39 that winter. I run what my father ran, in a city that is not the city he ran it in. I have 4 men whose whole job is making sure I am the one holding the information. I had cameras in 11 rooms of my own house, and I did not think about that once in 4 years. My hallway, my kitchen, the room where I sit at night when I cannot sleep. Gun by lunchtime, Peter said. Police by Friday. No, I want to know who she is working for. That was a lie, and I have thought about why for a long time since. The honest answer is that I had watched those clips 30 times, and there was something in the second one I could not get past. She deletes for 40 seconds, then closes the panel cover. Then she stands there, not looking around, not leaving. She puts one hand flat on the wall and stays 11 seconds with her head down, the way you do at the top of a staircase. Nobody does that after stealing something. So I did the thing Peter told me not to do. I pulled the raw archive myself and sat down at 4 in the afternoon to find out what a cleaner was taking out of my house at 3 in the morning. 2 things I did not know when I opened that file. What she was deleting, and who else had already watched it. Stay with me. Nobody in this story is a spy. The camera was never pointed where I thought it was. Peter told me the raw archive was 300 hours, and that I did not have 300 hours. He was right. I watched 11. You have to understand what the file actually is. It is not a film. It is 11 silent boxes on a wall of screens. 8 of them show a room with nothing in it, and the other 3 show a room where something is about to be nothing again. Nobody warns you about that part. I own a house with 22 rooms, and for most of any given day, every one of them is empty. I found the first deletion by working backwards, 3:41 on the Tuesday. So I went to Tuesday and I started at midnight and I let it run. At 2:12, she comes through the service door with a bucket. Camera 4. She does the hall floor, which takes about 40 minutes, and she does it on her knees in the corners where the machine will not reach. I sat in my office and watched a woman I pay $1,100 a week crawl along my skirting board at 2:30 in the morning. I want to say I felt something about that immediately. I did not. I noted it, and I kept going. At 3, she goes into the kitchen and she is out of frame for 9 minutes. At 3:10, she comes back through the hall and she stops. That is the first thing. She stops walking in the middle of my hallway and she looks at a door. The door is my study. She looks at that closed door for about 6 seconds. Then she goes to the utility corridor, and at 3:41, she opens the panel. So I did what anybody would do. I went and got the study camera. Camera 2, same night, and I found myself at 3:10. I am sitting on the floor, not in the chair. On the floor, with my back against the desk and my legs out in front of me, and an empty glass on the carpet beside me. My head is tipped back against the drawer handles. I am not doing anything at all. The timestamp runs. 10 past 3 becomes 20 past. I do not move. I am awake. Every so often, my hand goes up and covers my eyes and comes down again. I sat in my office at 4 in the afternoon, watching myself do that, and I could not remember 1 second of it. Is what frightened me. That is what frightened me. Not that she had seen it, that I had done it and lost it, the way you lose the drive home. At 3:38, I get up off the floor. I put the glass on the desk. I straighten my shirt in an empty room at 3:38 in the morning. Then I walk out of the study and go upstairs. At 3:41, Yvette Crane opened the panel and deleted the 28 minutes. I watched that sequence 4 times before I understood what I was looking at, and I want to be honest about the order it came in. First, I thought, she has leverage on me now. That is the first place my mind went. 11 years of running this, and the first thing I saw in a woman protecting me was a woman acquiring a weapon. Then I checked the second night. Same shape. I am on the floor of the same room at 2 in the morning on the Wednesday. She stops in the hall, 6 seconds at the door. Panel at 3:39. She never came in, not once. In neither clip does she open that door, or knock, or so much as put a hand on the frame. She just stood outside it and worked out how long she needed to cut. I called Peter at 7 that evening and told him I was not firing her. He asked what I had found. I said nothing yet. Second lie in 2 days. I was getting good at it. Because there was one thing left I did not understand, and it was the thing that mattered. Nobody deletes footage from a panel in a corridor. You delete it from the box. And the box was not the only place that footage had been for the last 4 years. Before I tell you what she said when I finally asked her, do one thing for me. Tell me in the comments where you are watching from tonight. And tell me the last time somebody saw you at your worst and never once mentioned it. Now let me tell you about the Thursday. I did not ambush her, and I want that said plainly, because everything I had done up to that point had been a version of ambush. I asked Mrs. Lim to tell her I would be in the kitchen at 8, and that it was not about her work. She came in at 8, exactly in her coat, with her bag still on her shoulder. She had understood the message perfectly, and had arrived already dressed to leave. Mr. Ryu, sit down, please. I would rather stand. So we did it standing, in my own kitchen, with the kettle going. She had put it on before she said a word, which I have thought about since. I had the tablet with me, and I put it face down on the counter. Tuesday night, I said, 3:41. And she said, yes, that was all. No question, no widening of the eyes, no what do you mean. Just, yes, the way you answer when somebody says your own name. I had prepared for 6 versions of this conversation, and none of them survived the first 4 seconds. You deleted 28 minutes. 29. There is a piece before you sat down that I took as well, because you can see the glass in it. I stood in my own kitchen and looked at a woman who had just told me she had been more careful than I had noticed. Why? Because you were on the floor. That is not a reason. It is the only one I have. She had her hands folded in front of her, not behind. Front, where I could see them. You were not doing anything wrong, Mr. Ryu. You were sitting on a floor in your own house at 3 in the morning. Nobody should have a copy of that. It is my house. It is my footage. No, Yvette said. Just that. No. And then she waited, and the kettle clicked off behind her, and I understood that she was going to make me ask. Explain that. Where do you think it goes? I did not answer, because I did not know, and she stood there and watched me not know. I am going to set down exactly what she said next. I have repeated it to myself more times than I have repeated anything. There is an office in Mississauga, she said. Ground floor of a business park off Matheson. Your feed goes straight there, all 11 cameras around the clock. 3 people work the overnight, and it has been the same 3 for about a year and a half. That is monitoring. That is what I pay for. Yes, I know what you pay for. She was completely calm, and it was worse than shouting. I am telling you the address, because in 4 years you never asked for it, and you never asked anybody else either. And I have been in a lot of houses. How do you know the address? Because I asked. 2 words. She asked. In 4 years, the only person in my organization who had thought to find out where the footage of my house physically traveled was the woman who cleaned it. You could have come to me, I said. With what? With this? With any of it, Mr. Ryu. And here something moved in her face for the first time. I am a cleaner. I am 47. I would have walked into a room to tell the man who owns the building that I had been watching him on a camera he installed, and that I had an opinion about his private business. She let that sit. You would have heard the first 11 words, and I would have been gone. And then nobody would be cutting it. She was right, and we both knew she was right, and it took me until the following spring to say so, out loud. So you decided instead. I did, without asking me. Yes, Yvette said, the same way you put a camera in the room where I mop the floor without asking me. I did not have anything for that, and there is not anything for that. She took the bag off her shoulder and set it on the counter. It was the first thing she had done all evening that suggested she might stay. Am I finished here? No. Then I would like to say the other part. Then I will go home, because I start again at 7. Say it. 29 minutes is what I could take without it showing. She said it the way you call out a measurement. The gap is logged. Anybody who goes looking will see a hole. I have been leaving one in your security log twice a week for 11 months. If the wrong person had found it before you did, it would not have been me who paid for that. Then, why? And Yvette Crane looked at me across my own kitchen and gave me the only answer she ever gave me for it. Because I have been on the other side of a camera for 20 years, she said, and nobody ever did it for me. The business park off Matheson has a Vietnamese bakery at one end, and a company that resurfaces bathtubs at the other. Unit 14 has a buzzer, a glass door with the film peeling off it, and a laminated notice about deliveries. I stood outside it on a Thursday morning in February. 2 men waited in the car behind me and did not understand why we were there, and I did not tell them. Inside there are 6 desks and 4 of them are empty during the day. The overnight shift is 3 people. Their names are Ilana, Ruben, and a man in his 50s everybody calls Sarge, and Ruben has worked that desk for 6 years, which is longer than I have owned the house. Ruben is the one who talked to me. He was polite and slightly bored, and he had no idea who I was. To him, I am a client number. He walked me through it without being asked twice. 11 feeds. They come up 4 to a screen and rotate every 20 seconds unless somebody pins one. Motion in a room, after hours, pins it automatically and puts a soft chime through the room speaker. He said the chime like it was nothing. He said it the way you would describe a doorbell. So it makes a sound, I said, when somebody moves. After hours, yeah. Otherwise, you'd never catch anything. And then somebody looks at it. Somebody's always looking at it. That's the service. I want to be careful here, because it is easy to make this into something it was not. Nobody in that room had done anything wrong. Ruben was doing his job, exactly as it was sold to me, on a contract I signed in an office in Yorkville, in front of Peter. I remember thinking at the time that the price was reasonable. 4 years, 11 rooms, 3 people a night. I asked Ruben how far back the archive went. 90 days on the local box, 18 months on the server. I asked what happened after 18 months. He said it depended on the retention clause, and did I want him to look it up? I said no. I sat in the car outside that unit for a long time. Everything I have built since I was 26 rests on knowing who is holding what. That is not a boast. It is nearer to a condition. I do not sleep in a room I have not walked through. I do not eat anywhere I have not seen the kitchen. My father died because he trusted a schedule, and I have never in my life let a schedule out of my hand. And I had spent 4 years being watched by 3 strangers in a business park. I had paid for it monthly by direct debit, and I had never asked the question a cleaner asked in her first month. That is when I understood what she had actually been doing. She was not protecting my dignity. Dignity is a word I put on it afterwards, to make it smaller and easier to carry. What she was doing was closing a hole in my security that I had opened myself and could not see. She was doing it at 3 in the morning, twice a week, at her own risk. For a man who had said 400 words to her, I drove back and I did the stupidest thing I have ever done as a grown man. I tried to fix it before I told her. By Friday afternoon, I had a new contract drafted and the monitoring moved in-house. Ruben and Ilana and Sarge were quietly bought out of their positions through the security firm. There was a private flat arranged for Yvette 12 minutes from the house, and her hourly rate tripled with a 2-year guarantee. Peter drew all of it up in a day. He was very pleased with me. He said it was the first sensible thing I had done all month. She came in at 7 on the Friday, and I put it in front of her on the kitchen counter. The whole thing, the way you deal a hand. She went through it, standing up. Then she straightened the pages, squared them off, and put them back down on the counter. No, Yvette, you have moved 3 people out of a job to make yourself feel better, she said. Ruben has 6 years there. Did you ask him? They were compensated. That is not what I asked you. The kettle was not on. I noticed that. She had not put it on this time. And this, she said, and she put 2 fingers on the page with the flat on it. You picked the building. You picked the street. You decided how far from you I should be, and you settled on 12 minutes. Then you had a lawyer write it down before you said one word to me about it. It is a better flat than the one you have. You have never seen the one I have. I had not, Mr. Ryu. And she said it quite gently, which was the worst part. I spent 11 months making sure nobody could look into a room of yours without your say-so. And the first thing you did when you understood that was arrange my life for me. There is a version of this where I said something that fixed it. What I actually said was that I was trying to help her. I heard it come out of my mouth, and I heard exactly how it sounded, and so did she. She picked up her bag. There was a better way to do this, I said. I knew that while I was doing it. Yes, I did it that way because it was faster. I know, Yvette said. That is the whole thing about men like you. It is never that you cannot wait. It is that nobody has ever made you. Then she went out through the service door she had used for 11 months, and I let her. And I stood in a kitchen with 11 cameras, still running in 11 rooms, and nobody in any of them. She did not come back on the Monday, and she did not answer the number in her file. I want to say I gave her space. What I did was sit in my study for 9 days, and not go to Mississauga, and not send anybody, because both of those were the same instinct that had already cost me once. On the 10th day, I did the only thing I had not tried. I went to the address on her employment file myself on foot, from the car, with nobody, and I stood at a door in a low brick building in Scarborough, and I did not knock straight away. She opened it before I did. I saw you from the window, Yvette said. You have been out there 4 minutes. Yes. Come in or do not, but decide, because I am paying to heat this hallway. The flat is on the 2nd floor, and it is smaller than the one Peter had picked for her, and it is a great deal better because everything in it belongs to her. There is a photograph on a shelf of a woman who has the same mouth she has. There is a folding chair by the window with a blanket over the arm, and the window looks at the back of another building. She made tea without asking whether I wanted it. I have 3 things, I said. Sit down for them. So I sat down in a folding chair in Scarborough and I said them in order. The first was that the monitoring contract was reinstated exactly as it had been. Ruben and Ilana and Sarge were back at Unit 14, with an apology that did not mention my name, because they had never known it in the first place. Good. You were right, and it was not mine to take from them. It was not. The second was the apology, and I made it badly, which I have come to believe is the only way to make one that is any good. I did not say I had meant well. I said I had gone around her because it was quicker, and because in 19 years nobody had made me wait, and that this was not a reason. She listened to all of it with the cup in both hands, and she did not help me at any point. And the third is not from me, I said. The third is a question, and you are going to give me the answer, and I am going to do whatever the answer is. Then I asked her what she wanted, not what she needed, not what she would accept, what she wanted. And I sat in a folding chair and waited for as long as it took, which was about 90 seconds. I have never waited 90 seconds for anything in my life. Take them out of the rooms where people are at home, Yvette said. I did not answer immediately. The hall can stay. The gate can stay. The service corridor, the garage, the perimeter, all of it, stay. That is a building, and it is your business, and it is not my place. But the kitchen is where Mrs. Lim eats her lunch. She set the cup down. The playroom. The back landing where the girls do their homework. Your study. Those are rooms where people are at home, Mr. Ryu, and there is no version of safe that is worth being watched in the room where you sit down at 3 in the morning. 5 cameras, I said. You are asking me to take out 5. I am not asking. You asked me what I wanted. I want to be accurate about what that meant, because from the outside it sounds like a small thing. It is 5 devices. It cost nothing to remove them. What it cost was this. For 4 years I had known that if something happened in my house, there would be a copy of it. Not for the police, for me. So that I would never again be in the position my father was in, which was dead on a Tuesday, because nobody could tell him afterwards what he had missed. Taking those 5 out meant accepting that there would be rooms in my life I could not go back and check. I said yes anyway. They came out on the following Wednesday, and I stood in the study while a technician unscrewed a bracket out of the corner above the door, and the ceiling had a paler square where it had been. Yvette came back the Monday after that, at 7, in her coat, with her bag on her shoulder. She has never once mentioned the 29 minutes since. Not to me, and not to anybody. And I know that, because I no longer have any way of finding out, which is the entire point. The thing I did not expect is what happened in the house. Mrs. Lim started eating her lunch at the kitchen table instead of standing at the counter. Nobody announced it. She just sat down one day in March and has sat down every day since. My daughter left her homework spread across the back, landing overnight for the first time in her life. She did not tidy it away before bed, because there was no longer anything in that corner watching her not tidy it away. A house is not the walls. I did not know that. I had lived in that house for 4 years, and I did not know it until I took 5 brackets out of it. And on the 15th of April, at about 3:30 in the morning, I could not sleep, and I went down to the study, and I sat on the floor with my back against the desk. I did not know she was still in the building. She had stayed late for the delivery. She stopped in the hall the way she always did. 6 seconds. Then, she did not say anything. She did not turn the light on. She sat down on the floor on the other side of the doorway with her back against the frame, about 2 meters from me, and she put her hands in her lap, and she stayed there until it got light. Nothing was keeping it. That is the only reason it happened. She kept 11 months of what she saw to herself, and she never once told him she was doing it. Was that loyalty? Or was that a decision she had no right to make for another person? Tell me below. I still cannot answer it.